I was very much leading a double life. So on the weekdays, I was sort of with my soldiers doing lots of very good army stuff. But then on my time off in the weekends and in the evenings in the mess, I'd be working on Honeypot at the time. All the PR and marketing stunts you see often come from me and George having a couple of pints. We call them pointless pints. And
on the contrary, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll just sit there and just be like, is it too ridiculous to do this? It's amazing how classic the Sweets in the Playground story is, because yes, that's exactly what I was doing. I then got beaten up and all my profits and stock stolen by a kid in the year above. So
is that why you joined the army then? Because you could play with weaponry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to have a load of soldiers to protect me.
Trials, tribulations, mistakes, barriers, successes and failures. Hear it here firsthand from those that have grown billion-dollar businesses to those that are just starting out. Winner of the Campaign Publishing Award for Best Business Podcast in the UK, Success is in the Mind is the only place where you can get a sense of business reality in a world full of idealism. Everyone claims to be an entrepreneur, but can everyone live up to the title? What does it take to start a business, to get your product into a high street store or grow a well-managed team? I'm Oliver Bruce, founder and entrepreneur myself. Join me as I interview business leaders and founders from across the globe, delving into what makes them tick, their differentiators and intrinsic motivators. This is Success is in the Mind. Thank you so much to our headline sponsors for the year, Capsule Cover. Capsule Cover, a specialist insurance partner to growth businesses, supports some of the UK's most innovative and ambitious companies. Sponsoring each and every one of our podcasts, we're on a journey with Capsule, and so should you be. If you're a scale-up or an ambitious, high-growth business, check out how Capsule Cover can help you with bespoke insurance solutions. Inquire via capsulecover.com and quote Success22. So today is Thursday, and yes, we normally release episodes on Wednesday at 8 AM. However, this is the exception. Are you single? Do you know someone who is single, fed up of the constant daily admin and low talent quality from the likes of Tinder, Bumble and Hinge? Well, fear not, because on this episode, by popular demand, we have the innovative and genuinely disruptive dating app, Thursday. The dating app that only works one day a week, and yes, you've guessed it, it's on a Thursday. Co-founded by ex-Army officer Matthew McNeill Love and entrepreneur George Rawlings, the company formerly known as Honeypot was initially founded in 2018 following a successful crowd-funded concept. Shortly after the fund, however, Matt was posted to Afghanistan on an army tour. It was in April 2020 that the company closed an additional top-up round, having rebranded as Thursday, a dating app exclusively at the time for Londoners. With co-founder George publicly stating on LinkedIn that the business was to have a valuation in the first 12 months post-funding of some £50 million, most Londoners and parts of the US rallied behind the co-founders thanks to their disruptive and viral campaigns. I asked Matt, how do you found a business whilst holding down a full-time military career? What does a successful startup need to do to raise funding? And who came up with the infamous cardboard viral guerrilla marketing campaigns? Ladies and gentlemen, single or otherwise, Matthew McNeill Love.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, your surname is literally Love, so I mean, we can't have a podcast about making love without alluding to the fact that...
Yeah, the amount of people that think I changed my name for this is like, guys, I'm not that sad.
Well, it could be worse. It could be McLovin, couldn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
So you went to Dean Close School, which is actually local to where our studio is. You then studied a Bachelor of Arts in Marketing. You went to Oxford Brookes. You then joined the army. How did you get into the world of dating?
So, very good question. While I was at university, I was building a website with a chap called Stephen Bartlett. We were building a thing called Wallpark, which we thought was going to change the way students get jobs, the way they hire books, the way they rent houses. And at the time, I think I was probably quite naive. I probably didn't believe in the vision enough.
Right.
I had a place at Sandhurst after going through main board and joined the army. I went to Sandhurst in 2014. He obviously became incredibly successful and now is a dragon on Dragon's Den, which is remarkable. I will take no credit for his success. Was a mere drop in the ocean, but it's a fairly funny coincidence.
So would you have done quite well out of that then, Matt, if you'd stuck with it?
Yeah. No, it was a very, very different thing. What ended up being Social Chain was nothing to do with me. As much as I would love to take credit for it.
You can take a small amount.
Yeah, exactly. And then while at Sandhurst, I went on holiday with another Dean Close chap called George Rawlings.
Right.
George and I were sat in a bar one evening talking about the woes of being single in modern day. And a fairly sort of quote unquote conversation happened, which was, even if you approach a girl in a bar and she might find you attractive, mm-hmm. and you find her attractive and you approach her, the chances of her sticking it out and having a chat with you was pretty slim. And I don't know if that says more about me and George, and I think it's because society has become so reliant on hiding behind a screen and swiping left and right and judging people and being judged, that to actually approach people in the normal world is very slim and very sort of not that heard of. So we created an idea called Honeypot, which we crowdfunded on Crowdcube, which was great. I was bizarrely on a tour in Afghanistan at the time.
Well, I was going to say, how did you manage to start a business and maintain a job in the military at the same time? How did you do that?
It wasn't without its challenges. I think it was. I was very much leading a double life. So on the weekdays, I was sort of with my soldiers and doing lots of very good army stuff and going away, which was brilliant. But then on my time off in the weekends and in the evenings in the mess, I'd be working on Honeypot at the time.
There's a lot of other things people normally work on in a mess, not necessarily trying to found a dating.
Yeah, it was bizarre. And then, once we got the idea of Honeypot out there, we thought, right, this is it. We've got something here. Honeypot itself wasn't correct, but we used that to rebrand and pivot to Thursday.
Because, how did you actually come up with the name for Honeypot then? Was that entirely driven by you and George? Because when you were serving, George was still very much involved in, I suppose, driving what is now known as Thursday.
Yeah.
How integral was George to the founding of it?
Oh, it's huge. We have I think the reason why we're seeing a bit of success at the moment is because our team has got a very clearly defined roles within the company.
Right.
All the PR and marketing stunts you see often come from me and George having a couple of pints. We call them pointless pints. And
on the contrary, I think.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll just sit there and just like, is it too ridiculous to do this? Is it too ridiculous to do that? And then we'll eventually whittle it down to something.
So what's been the most ridiculous that's fallen through?
We released a email to our entire mailing list to about 5,000 people at the time. I think we had single people in London, an email that was meant to come from our chairman, but went mistakenly out to our entire mailing list about a sex scandal in the office, and that you might notice one of the co-founders isn't here today. It was risky. I mean, we sent it out and we thought, oh my God. And it had the effect we thought it was going to have, which is...
Yeah, didn't it make the press? I swear I saw that in The Independent.
Yeah, it did. No, it was... there was an article in The Economist.
That was it.
There's a journalist there who was very much like a dog with a bone, and she would not let it go. And she's not a fan, to put it mildly. And but while it was risky and it was sort of a bit naughty, I suppose, it did have the effect we thought it would have, which is by the end of the day, we had about 25,000 people on the mailing list.
Wow, okay.
So it kind of had the effect. Would we go that risque again? Probably not. But you do what you've got to do to start.
You do, and actually looking back at it, we'll get into the guerrilla aspect, which I'm sure a lot of people listening to this will be fascinated by, because you are properly aggressive online. But as a kid growing up, before you kind of graduated, went to Oxford Brookes, but maybe whilst you were still at Dean Close, did you have any kind of entrepreneurial flair back then? Were you selling sweets in the school playground, or were you very much corporate through and through?
It's amazing how classic the sweets in the playground story is, because yes, that's exactly what I was doing.
Is that what you
before I went to Dean Close? I went to school in Somerset that I think's now closed down, and says a lot about the school.
It's a great school.
And we used to get £7 a week pocket money, and on the weekend I'd go to Tesco and buy all the economy I could, chocolate and sweets for £7. Okay. And then on Monday or Tuesday, everyone would have eaten through all of their sweets and chocolate, and I wouldn't have done. And then I would sell it for more, and it was a great way of making a bit of money. I then got beaten up, and all my profits and stock stolen by a kid in the year above. So it was a short-lived business.
Is that why you joined the army then? Because you could play with weaponry?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I wanted to have a load of soldiers to protect me.
When it was Honeypot, when you were developing this MVP, how did you actually go about developing the concept? Was it developed by George? Was it by you? Who did the coding? Who did the creation?
One of our co-founders, although he doesn't like the limelight, is our CTO. He very much built the entire thing, and now has a fairly good team around him. In terms of the idea, that just came from a conversation saying, look, we've got Honeypot, but it's not really working. The branding's crap. It's awful. And it didn't mean anything. We struggled to describe what Honeypot was in a sentence. So if we can't describe it in a sentence, then how the hell are you going to market it? So we realised that there was a massive spike in usage on a Thursday. on our own data. And then if you dive into the other listed apps, which they are all under, majority of them are under the big major groups, and they're publicly listed companies, you can find fairly quickly that in the Western world, in big sort of cosmopolitan cities, there is a real spike in activity on a Thursday.
Right. I wonder why that is.
And so that informed our decision to pivot. And that's why we also had to get over the chicken and egg problem, where if people are your currency and they're allowed to have preferences, which mean they minimize the pool to their sort of preference pool, and then they're allowed to cull them 24/7, you need a lot of people.
You need
like thousands, hundreds of thousands to maintain it. And by concentrating it to one day of the week, by forcing people to make a decision because everything ends at midnight, we got over the chicken and egg problem.
Having that many users on the platform, a lot of people to manage, what's the weirdest request or weirdest issue that you guys have had on the platform?
So we take reporting and blocking very seriously. Right. And we also verify everybody for safety, which is why I think our user base is, the percentage of women is higher than our competitors, because we try and make as safe an environment as possible. But you do get fairly often photos reported on profiles, and our poor developers have to trawl through basically a load of dick pics. And so they spend a lot of time being like, I hate my job. Going through all the reporting, and then of course we block.
Do you have an internal ranking process whereby you can rank the cock?
God, he's big.
It's an 8 out of 10 for him.
That's extraordinary. That can't be real.
We've seen that one before. Anyway, that's mine. Hold on. No, that's
exactly.
When you're obviously launching it and when you're running it on a Thursday, I imagine the uplift's greater on a Thursday. Does that give you time to have, I suppose, downtime from a dev point of view, or why you can turn elements off because it isn't in use?
Well, good question. And in my sort of simple, non-technical brain, I would think, well, God, it's only working one day of the week, so of course it's absolutely fine. 6 days a week, we're not paying for AWS, we're not paying for this, we're not paying for the downs. Unfortunately, the reality is, because we're slightly a victim of our own success, where we now have, we just approached 250,000 downloads, and the drama is all that mass concentrates on one day.
Okay.
So on that day, you need to have extreme servers to cater for it, because everybody's hitting it at that time. Whereas Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, granted, we won't be nowhere near the numbers we have on them, but it's not surprising that every week in London we slip into the top 10 in the global app store charts on social media, with WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger being 1, 2, and 3. We're always top 10 because of the mass that we have driving it on one specific day, and no one else is doing that. It's all spread more evenly. People are fed up of getting a Hinge match through, or a Tinder match, or Bumble, and they do work. These dating apps they absolutely work if you invest enough time and are prepared to send out as many likes and receive as many likes that lead to nothing.
Yeah, it's a critical mass game, which I constantly tell my business partner, but he doesn't do that. He's more picky than I am, or at least was, I should add. Girlfriend's probably listening to this one.
It is a numbers game. It absolutely is a numbers game.
It is very much so. I don't know if you had a CRM system when you were on a dating app whereby you put them through a funnel and it was like hot lead, cold lead, conversion. I don't know how you guys did that.
We didn't, but a couple of our developers, who shall not be named, definitely did.
I think everybody's been there. But in terms of your CTO that developed the platform, are they heavily involved still in the business? Do they still have equity?
Yeah. So everyone is incentivized in the company now. So we have a share pool or an options pool. Mm-hmm. George and I incentivized everybody when we raised all the key players with shares. And yeah, very much so. I mean, the thing with tech is once you built it, it doesn't mean it's finished. It just means you just open up a load more problems. And scaling to another country sounds simple, but my God, it's not. And so the team now in the office is about 12 full time, but on the dev side, 8. So they make up the majority.
Do you think you could have, built this and come up with the concept if indeed you hadn't had that contact that was essentially the tech and the nous and the knowledge behind building that platform? Because, to actually build a platform's expensive unless you know how you're doing it.
Totally agree. I think if anyone came to me and said they were going to try and build an app that connects people, so you've got a double opt-in, for anything less than 200 grand, I'd be like, don't waste your money. Like, don't waste your investors' money. It's a very expensive game.
It is, but you guys raised 117,000, so literally half of what you've just stated there. That was your initial fund. Anyway.
We were lucky. That was very much pre-seed. We were really lucky. I was working on free in my spare time. George was taking a minor salary. He sold his house. David and some of the other dev guys were the only people taking less than they should for their market rate. So we were lucky with having a team that really believed in what we were doing. And that allowed the money to go further. Since raising that 117 grand, we then topped ourselves up to about 500,000 through instant investment on seed legals, which enabled us to keep raising as and when we needed it until we did our seed round about 4 months ago.
And that was for 2.5 million quid, wasn't it?
Yes, yeah, exactly. We went after 1.25 million pounds and doubled it.
Fine, okay. And how do you know where to put that money then, I suppose? Let's go back to the 117,000 quid, right? You've been given that, you're in the army, George has sold his house, you've got some techies working on it. How do you know what that split is? How do you know to put 50 grand in here and 25 in there?
So again, looking back now, I think we were incredibly naive, and I think most people who start out initially are, because you don't know what you don't know. The one bit of advice I'd give to anybody who's trying to start an app without being technical themselves, which is a challenge in itself, make sure you find someone who genuinely is a good person. And because it's all too easy to have the wool pulled over your eyes because it is so expensive and these guys are so sought after, it's very hard to get people full time. They would rather freelance because they make a fortune. It's a real fine line between chucking money at a problem and actually having someone who knows how to deploy it. And David, our CTO, is ruthless about who he hires, who he doesn't, what we need, where we spend it. And it's, you also have to trust your team members. And he's got our full trust implicitly.
Yeah, and in terms of trust and delegation, I mean, being an army officer, you have to delegate, I suppose, to the ranks below you, arguably answer to those above you. Do you think that structure serving in the army has given you an ability to go, this is where I want it to go, you guys go and run it, because you've been brought up that way?
I think definitely there's strengths that have come across. I got asked this the other day, actually, and I think, if there was one thing you could bring across, what would it be? And I think it's probably resilience, because nothing ever goes to plan. And, Mike Tyson, famous saying, everyone's got a plan until they get punched in the face. It is so true. Like nothing ever will go the way you think it's going to go, or where your pitch deck says it should go, or your business model says it should go. Mm-hmm. And so I think, yes, it's helped massively. I think I'm probably quite good at, George is very good at the visionary bit.
Yes.
I think I'm quite good at the making sure we get there. So here's the big vision, great. How do we then get there? And like tracking back and implementing that. And I think we've got quite a good split in the team of across the whole lot between the visionary people who have the big vision stuff, and then let's try and implement it and get it there. And how do we then break it down and get there? And
that makes sense. I mean, looking at George's history, I suppose he's more entrepreneurial, with the greatest respect, Matt, than I suppose you are. I mean, prior to Thursday, he was in a previous business, was he not? Which was all around video content. You were in the army. Do you think having that ability to merge operational efficiency, which is yourself, with entrepreneurialism is kind of the perfect merge?
I think two things actually on this point. There's a real danger in society that everyone tries to pigeonhole people. And, we use the titles COO and CEO and CTO and we don't have CMO. But actually, if I'm totally honest, we hate it because it's very over official for the sake of it. And actually, when you're a small team, everyone just picks up the phone and does everything. So it's like, I need you to go and do this. I need you to run the Facebook campaign, or I need myself to go and do this podcast, or it's all very blurry. But I think everybody has to add value and just know what I love. I think about the team we've got at the moment, and we're very protective of who we hire going forward. Is I could walk in, George could walk in, David could walk in. We don't even have to say a thing to anybody, and everybody just knows what they're doing and is working towards whatever it is would be expected of them, be it the social media posts for the day, be it teeing up the venues, be it running the data, because Johnny, our data scientist, knows that I want to know how many downloads we had in the LGBTQ plus community in New York tomorrow, type of thing. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see how, I suppose it's intrapreneurial really, isn't it, in terms of everybody sort of running their own departments and doing their own thing. But looking at the social posts, you guys kind of did that on a budget of 500 quid, and now it is what you're kind of famous for, really. I mean, I'm not single, but I've come across the app and I know everything about the app simply through the aggression online. It's like, who came up with those ideas in the early days then?
So again, it was all, out of necessity, when we raised that money, we spent it all on devs, and we didn't have the money to then market it. So we had to be like, okay, we've got this product, we've got a platform. It's not perfect. How the hell do we tell people about it? And again, it generally came from these pointless pint chats, being like, why don't we put a board on this, or why don't we take a blackboard and make up some cheating scandal? And I think we just learned very aggressive. We learned the hard way, but in a really useful manner, of what captures imagination.
So are you saying that George never cheated on his girlfriend? I thought that blackboard was truth.
No. George is a very good moral guy.
For the record.
Yeah. I'd like to have that in writing.
Yeah, but it is genius. I mean, your interns that join, I bet you get people applying to join Thursday just because it looks like a fun place to work, right?
But I think for us, we realised, again, with Honeypot, it was all about us being the face of it and trying to take the credit for it and fame, which you see on LinkedIn all the time at the moment. Everyone just trying to be the face of their company, which is great, but it's short term. You know, if you want to be an influencer, be an influencer. If you want to have a company, let the company do the talking for you. And that's where a real pivot happened for us. And it was, let Thursday have its own brand. So if we can make Jess, for example, who got voted top 50 creative influencer in the UK or something by some award, flipping brilliant, great. If we can make Johnny go viral on LinkedIn or our data science because he looks like Harry Styles, excellent. If we can make David or one of the developers go viral because of some tweet, for us, it's like, it's all about the team. Like, make them really big and famous, but as big as we can in their roles, because they are then the ambassadors and face of Thursday. And the more people who are the face of Thursday, the better.
In terms of hiring individuals, what do you look for when hiring somebody, and kind of what are the mistakes? You said you've had to fire people over the last 3 years. What were those mistakes, and why did it go so badly wrong?
Really good question. So when we look to hire people, if it's technical, they'll go through David first, and they will have to do a code test that he'll do, initial conversation, then a code test. Then they'll get passed on to George and I for sort of the culture fit.
And what does that mean? Taking them out for a beer and standing them on a plinth?
Initially, actually, it's you come into the office and have a chat and be like, guys, this is a startup.
Yeah.
And this is, you will be asked to do things that aren't in your job description. You will be asked to work late nights on some of them, but it's a lot of fun. We look after stuff quite well. I think they'd say, go out for dinner and drinks and all that sort of stuff, and give them lots of time off. But you are expected to work bloody hard, and you will be entered into these share options which vest over time, but you will have to earn them. And I think what's great about the environment we've got here is it's very ambitious, and as you said, entrepreneurial. It kind of is. Everyone here is sort of entrepreneurial because they've got the opportunity. So when we hire, we make that really clear. Mistakes that we've made before is there's a lot of real experts out there, and you will get pushed quite hard. We get pushed quite hard by some of our backers in the form of VCs to hire these people who are ex-Deliveroo and ex-Uber Eats, and that's great. Why are you X? And that's fine, but we don't need to hire a CMO right now because everyone comments on how well our marketing's doing and our numbers are speaking for themselves. So I'm not going to get pushed into hiring a CMO because what are they going to tell us that we're not already doing?
Yeah, 100%.
You sacrifice when you're hiring speed for quality. And it's a debate we have all the time. We need to grow. We've got the money to do it. We need to keep growing our team and with the right people. But you don't want to accept lesser quality in order to get people in quicker because it just doesn't work. And we've had to fire a couple of people. And firing people is miserable. Mm-hmm. As anyone who's ever had to do it, it's not fun.
No.
And two, it's really negative energy for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's also concerning. It sends shockwaves through the business, right, when you fire someone, even if it's for the absolute right reason. There's an underlying question, comment all the time about, well, is this company okay? Is it going to be sustainable? Can we carry on with our careers? But in terms of managing individuals and sort of, communicating to the wider team, albeit, 12 people at the moment, I'm sure it's going to double, triple, quadruple over the next couple of months and years. What mistakes have you made and how do you manage a team?
Very good question again. I think they're all been very good. I think the problem is very old school. I think I like to try and lead by example. So if we've got a PR stunt going on at 6 a.m, for example, I will make sure that I'm in at 5:30.
Right.
If it's a very basic leadership, like sort of lead by example in that sense. But I think also we won't ask anybody to do anything that we haven't already done or wouldn't do ourselves. So all the PR stunts and stuff with Anya or Jess or Johnny or Harry, we've done it ourselves. And the reason why we're not doing it is because, yes, I could go out there and put a board on, and so could George. We've already done it. We've already got the tick.
Yes.
With these people, it's like, Jess, if you do it, you will get all the credit. You will get all the, people wanting to do podcasts with you, and it'll be like another perk for you. So I think in managing a team, let people take credit for their work, and even if it is you as a company's idea, or George and I are not bitter about Jess becoming, getting asked to do a TV interview. We're getting filmed tomorrow, and we're away in New York actually, but there's a TV crew coming here to film the whole thing and then do something on Thursday with him. Great, let them be the face of it. Like, don't be jealous. Like, be proud that your team is doing that, and not, why am I not on the face of it? Do you see what I mean?
100%. And I suppose looking at, you alluded to the fact that you're in New York tomorrow, and everything you do seems to be kind of quite spontaneous. Whether it's meant to look like that and is actually planned meticulously behind the scenes, I don't know. But the other week, I think it might have even been last week, you said that you had 100,000 downloads in the last 14 days. You're going to jump on an aircraft and go and explore some VCs out in New York. Surely there's a plan around, month 6, 100,000 downloads, go to New York, rather than, oh, Christ, boys, we've actually done something here. We should maybe book a ticket.
What we like to portray is chaos and sporadic and a bit bonkers because it's endearing. And it's relatively true, but it's people are interested in the journey.
Yeah.
There's a lot of thought that goes into these posts and LinkedIn stuff about, I've got 100,000 downloads in 10 days. True, we have. We're now at the point where we're seeing exponential growth. So we've got from steady growth to rocketing up, which is great.
Okay.
But in that message was a few key messages to all the VCs, that everyone who sees us and follows us, which is, we're going for Series A, i.e. get in touch with us, because if you don't, we won't. We're going to New York. We're going after American money.
Yeah. We're
going to be expanding to it. So there's a lot more that goes into it. But I think to sort of just a quick glance at it, people think, oh, these guys are bonkers, they just do what they want. And that's the image we like to portray. But actually, when it comes down to it, it's more thought out.
So Matt, in 2020, April 2020, your business partner George said quite publicly on LinkedIn that you guys needed to have a valuation come the end of 12 months of 50 million quid.
Yeah.
Do you think that's going to be possible?
I think you'll see a headline in a newspaper probably in January, I imagine, that says we achieved that.
Okay, good. And
I'm sorry to be coy. I can't say what it is, unfortunately, but because it's half of it's being sorted out as we speak. But yeah, we will achieve that.
Okay, that's good. And in terms of what that means for you as a business, 12 staff, 50 million plus valuation, are you going to float?
No, I think we've got a lot to prove still. I think the great thing about the tech game is everyone knows it costs money to grow, and as long as you can prove you can do it efficiently, and you generally have something that's not a fad, but is people are sticking to it, there's a lot of money out there, and but it's also well known that it costs money. So it's a fairly well trodden path of raise, deliver what you say you're going to raise, or over exceed, raise again, dilute a little bit more, and you just keep going. I think from our point of view, we definitely will do a Series A. Whether or not, we'll see how far we take it. It's a very competitive space, and you can be really, really big in it, and still it's a tough space, and you are competing against big $1 billion, 8, 12, 13, 14, $40 billion companies. So you have to know when I think you have to know when the time is right to say thank you. I'll let the experts take over now.
100%. And looking at the Series A, then, how much are you actually wanting to raise for that?
So we're raising $20 million.
So you're raising $20 million. Okay, fine. And what have you got, a multiple of 10? 8?
So you're very good, but I can't say.
Raising 20 million, you'll easily get to a valuation of 50 million quid. Not worried about that at all. But
I'll put it this way. We're not going to be diluting 50%.
No, I can imagine. You're not going to do that. Just in terms of actually looking then at salaries and money and how you actually do, I suppose yourself, Matt, make cash to pay your mortgage or rent. do you take a salary that is sustainable? Do you reinvest? What does that look like from a monetary point of view?
So some really good advice we got given when we did the seed round. We thought, pay ourselves peanuts, live in London, really go for the whole hardship, look at us eating noodles and sleeping in the office because that's all we can afford. And actually, one of the VCs who backed us were like, guys, you're not being realistic. You're effectively window dressing your numbers and your forecasts because you're saying you're not paying yourselves. That's not sustainable. So now we pay ourselves what is worthy of the company that we are on. And we take advice from some investors who have been in a similar position. But in this game, you create your own luck and you need to be rewarded enough for it to be worth it because it's 24/7. And until this thing, however long this journey lasts for, it doesn't stop, and to put it in context. And this is absolutely not woe is me or George at all, but I hadn't had a holiday since April. We haven't gone home since then. So I think it's what people don't see is probably and same with any entrepreneur, any business owner, yourself included, will know, is it is a 24/7 game. And if you're in a position to pay yourself accordingly, then I think that's important because it sustains you.
100%. And what I'm interested in is one of your investors who was going back to the X, he was the founder of Monzo. I suppose you could say that he used to work for Monzo. But in terms of what he said, and you're quoting him online, he said that there's secrets behind not mentally burning out, essentially. Now, what are those secrets? Because, starting a business as big as Monzo, you're going to be working a lot. There's going to be mental burnout. But you've quite clearly said that he's told you these little secrets around how not to.
So I think that Tom's a really successful guy and a very interesting guy and very generous with his thoughts on setting up companies. He also co-founded Go-Kartless, which is a hugely successful company. And Matt Robinson was also, who's co-founder, invested in us as well. Just really interesting guys, and you can learn a lot from them, I think. But I think with Tom, his angle is you get pushed very hard when you take institutional money, and you need to be really careful you get the right VCs on board or the right backers on board. And I think that's more what he's referring to, is always being driven quite hard with results. And one thing I think we've discussed before is he used to get a load of shit for setting up a bank but not being a banker, despite the fact he's incredibly successful, was already a fairly successful, very successful, proven entrepreneur, went to Oxford, super bright. He would just basically get hounded for not being a banker. Yeah. I mean, the irony being, who's had the last laugh? But I think his main sort of focus and where we spend more time talking is on things about not getting bullied by VCs who they don't care about you as an individual, as a founder. They will say they do, but they don't. What they care about is their 10x or 20x or whatever it is. And I think it's very easy to get wined and dined and lulled into this wonderful full sense of security where, you're a superstar and this and that. I think call a spade. Mm-hmm. And if you start on that level, everybody then knows. And I think that's probably more where he was leaning towards, certainly where he's helped us a bit.
And you talk quite, eloquently, I suppose, around all of these elements, from investment through to running an app, through to marketing, things that people take 10, 15 years to cut their teeth in from a career standpoint. You've done it for literally 3 years. How did you learn this? Who mentored you? Who guided you through that process?
I think what's been really useful is I was lucky enough to have a mentor who was ex-military, an ex-Royal Marine deep sea diver guy, brilliant, who'd started a load of companies himself before, very successful in his own right, and he'd given me loads of advice. I'm going through. George, similar, has got a mentor that he sort of leans on a bit, but I think the main thing is there's a bit of a team spirit here where we're now at the stage in the company where everyone in that room is doing it for the first time. And so you kind of learn together. We use a legal system called Seed Legals, which I really recommend. They make life very simple. They are always on the end of the phone call, which is great. I think they get annoyed with the amount of phone calls George inflicts on them. But no, it's very much a learning process, and you do make mistakes. I think we're fortunate enough to have a bit of money where anything legally, we run past lawyers who are much smarter than we are. But initially it was just God, I hope this works.
A lot of people say on this, though, that they're naive experts, which it sounds like that you are as well.
Yeah, totally. Well, no, the naive bit, definitely.
Less the expert. In terms of, and I'm going to go back to how you've geared up and scaled up in terms of the out-of-home marketing and that side of stuff, because you say that you have your pointless pints, which I love, but arguably coming up with slogans, for instance, Bumble, Hinge, Tinder, there's nothing awkward about saying you met on Thursday. You know, whether or not that was a pointless pint, you still managed to get it on billboards, get it around tube stations. You've got an agency that do that.
No, so we everything we do is in-house. So what is, I think as a company we're quite good at relationship building, and so we've got a very good relationship with JC. I think you said JC Co.
Yep.
Cal.
Yeah.
And we are on their nurture program, which if you're valued at, I can't remember, it's a small amount, but you've raised over X amount, they will help you and match you with some of their funding. It's really, really good. Anyone listening, strongly recommend hitting them up. So we've got a good relationship with them, and they will produce some of the stuff we put up and be like, hey guys, literally we've got a 4-hour slot free. Do you want it? Like, yeah, all right. Like, we did pay them a little bit of money initially to get a big campaign off the ground. But no, I think like everything you see at the moment with Thursday, be it the website, be it the Instagram account, be it the TikTok, the LinkedIn stuff, it's all comes from within the office. And I think it's because we're all in the frame of mind of our target market that we know what kind of relates. And I don't think at this stage going to an agency who will put 10 heads on it and whack 40% fee on top is going to be able to do it better than us at the moment.
No, 100%. You live it, you breathe it, I suppose. And to that very point, if you were to take a step back in the years to come, for instance, and bung in somebody sitting in a C-suite role, it's quite easy for them to kind of cock it up because they're not as invested as you guys are. So does that sort of play on your mind?
I think if we get to that position, everyone will be so well incentivized, be it through salary packages and share options, and that it won't be in their interest to cock it up. And I think you'd, like Tom did with Monzo, you'd probably say goodbye, but you wouldn't leave it completely.
Sure.
And so Tom's now the president of Monzo, so he has sort of overarching view of what, finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I imagine if we were fortunate enough to get to that position, we'd do a similar thing.
Sure. And looking at it, you've got a chairman at the moment, haven't you?
We don't actually. We did.
We did
have a chairman. We no longer have someone. I think at the next round, when we close this next round of funding, the board will grow, and we will have to get a chairman. Who and what and how that looks, I don't know yet. But it will probably, I'd like to think, someone who has scaled an app, a B2C app in their time. Globally, because they would then be able to add value and see where we're going to inevitably make mistakes or give us good advice.
100%. What happened to the chairman that you did have then?
Tim resigned because he felt he couldn't add. He felt that we probably could do better with someone who was more current. Tim did really well for himself back in the day we started one of the first startup incubators, and he was brilliant in the very early stages. He was absolutely excellent, helping us get everything set up and planned. But I think then going forward, he was very honest and stuck to his lane. Knew he was very good at starting things, but not necessarily at the stage being able to advise us at the stage we're at now. And so but he's still an investor and still a very good friend of the company.
The way that you've built up this kind of cultural following is very much by kind of having that vibe, having that culture outside the office, irrespective of what your team and your staff do inside the office. You have festivals, for instance, you have, bars that are rented out, for instance. So, is that an integral part to growing the following of the business, of the brand? Because you look at it and you also go, your Instagram's private, which is quite niche and quite unique when you're trying to build a public-facing brand.
Yeah, so I think community is everything. And I've forgotten, I'm not even going to try and remember who said it, but someone very famous who in a book basically said that, start with community and then work upwards and outwards. And I think that's what we've tried to do. And I think we've been quite successful at it. The reason why our Instagram is private is because if you get accepted to follow the Instagram account, which everyone does, it creates I don't want to leave this now because I've now got through the door. And it creates a need to follow. And, our Instagram account, not that it matters, and this is slight vanity metrics, but, is the most engaged dating app Instagram account in the world.
Is that right?
So not in terms of followers, right, but in terms of engagement. I mean, we're only about 100,000 short behind $12 billion valuation company Bumble we're humble Thursday, but our engagement is crazy. And it's because we've created this community of people who really buy into what I think we're trying to solve, which is, singles should be fun and should be exciting, not this laborious chore.
But in terms of actually looking at how you bring in those individuals from a cultural standpoint, you push notifications out to individuals' phones, you send out messages about travelling home safely on a Thursday night or frankly any other night. And it's really niche because you're actually not marketing aggressively your brand. You're actually doing it quite subtly, but yet you're constantly at the forefront of people's minds. I'm assuming that came from a pointless pint.
I think we realised that our marketing is very aggressive, and we needed to have a really good balance of stuff that we care about as well as a company. We're an app that encourages you to match, chat and meet that day ultimately. And whilst granted it's not our responsibility what happens when people do meet, we do have a responsibility to make sure that people are as well informed as they possibly can be. Stuff like walking home safely, the night tube, stuff like that really affects our customers, we will absolutely get behind. And some people criticize us because they think they see it as opportunistic marketing. But we see it very much as we've got a platform to get 150,000 signatures on a petition to get the night tube out. Why would we not do it?
No, I think it's elegant. I think it's very smart, really, really smart. And how's that actually going, that petition?
I think it's been signed off, but the petition itself, in true government fashion, was fairly farcical in terms of, I think there's like 1.5 trains running now.
Is that right? Not even two.
I think so. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I think it's something like that.
In terms of making money, you're clearly good at raising this stuff, but turning a profit, I imagine you guys are loss leading at the moment?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
you will be for some time.
We make about 50% of our burn through people paying premium.
Righto.
So we are monetized. We are bringing in fairly good money, but it's never going to be as much as we're spending to grow because we're just in that growth phase. And that is why you raise, and that's why you dilute to just keep growing. We could turn the tap off on the growth. We could reduce our burn by reducing the team now and just become a very nice lifestyle app, but it will die to nothing. It will eventually just die and fizzle into nothing. I think it's just widely accepted in the world that we're in the world that most B2C apps are in, that once you get to the point you're happy with the product, you need to spend to acquire. Yeah,
I mean, look frankly at Uber. I mean, they never turn a profit, and they're pretty damn big. Yeah. But in terms of the ratio
WhatsApp.
Exactly, WhatsApp. But in terms of the ratio of how much you've got coming in versus what you've got going out, what does that look like from a perspective point of view?
We are probably bringing in 50% of what we're spending.
Wow. Okay, so you really are kind of running it at a loss. And I mean, in terms of how long that'll be for is kind of up in the air, I assume, because you guys will probably be out there by the time it matters.
Yeah, exactly. I think the big advice we've got is when you raise money, have a plan on how long you want to use it for. You don't raise money to sit there and pay yourselves nice salaries for 10 years. You've got to deliver on it, and you've got to spend in order to grow, in order to acquire, in order to go into new countries. And I think for us, when we go and close the Series A round of funding, one of the attractive things about our investment proposal is the fact that we've got quite a lot of money in the bank still.
Yeah.
But the reason why we're doing it now is because momentum is high. We want to get the right people on board, et cetera, and it means we can just spend more. I think there's this danger of, and we nearly slipped into this in the very early days of, you spend everything and then you raise. The trouble is that by doing that, you become insanely vulnerable. So if someone wants to come and say, look, I will give you your $20 million or whatever it is, but I want 50%.
Yeah.
Well, you don't really have a leg to stand on.
You've got to give them the 50%, haven't you? You have to.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's a very fine line. But I think, management of money is really key. It's so important. And as a founder, co-founder, you absolutely take responsibility. When I see the people walk into the office, you definitely have the, if George and I get this wrong, they're going to be out of a job, and we definitely have a social responsibility to the people we work with us.
100%. You've got 12 Christmases to pay for this year. That's the responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. Luckily, we're going to wrap up. We're going to kill one bird with one stone and go to Winter Wonderland.
yeah, exactly. That sounds perfect, actually.
Settlement. Yeah.
In terms of what's next for Thursday, the gearing up aspect, the next level of investment, the scaling to potentially the US, what's on the horizon?
We're going to scale into 30 major cities in the US. And that's what this round will be used for.
Okay, fine. And is that going to happen as of February, or is that going to be phased over the next 22?
It'll be phased over. It'll be phased over from February. I think realistically we'd have completed what we want to complete by June 23.
Wow. Okay.
With that round of funding and with those cities in America, because that would have really cracked the back of America, and then it will be looking onwards to bigger markets. I mean, we're already in Dublin and all over that. It's kind of grown organically anyway, but in terms of hard pushing out there marketing, that's the plan.
Well, it sounds really exciting, and I had someone comment on our LinkedIn post earlier mentioning that you were coming on. They said, put this in the unicorn bank. So, Matt, can I have your word that if you do scale over the next 2 or 3 years to the level that you want to scale to, can you come back and do an exit interview?
I will. I'm like, guys, so what car shall I buy?
Go on, what car would it be?
Without a shadow of a doubt, whatever the latest Aston Martin is, it has to be.
100%.
George's would be a lime green Lamborghini because he's a bit more subtle than me.
Yeah, no, that's a bit boring. I don't like that.
No, I know.
And if I want to help you boys then with getting to that point of exit, getting that Lamborghini, getting that Aston Martin, how can I download the app? How can I find out more about Thursday? And if I want to invest, how can I do that?
So we are www.getthursday.com, which is a website that's about to change over, big rebrand. I think will be done probably hopefully in 2 weeks. And then if you just search on the App Store Thursday Dating, it will appear straight away. Ignore some of the reviews. Google Android users as well. They are very mean. They are very, very cruel. And the funny thing is all our developers are on, they're all Android users. And they're like, oh my God, they're so brutal.
That's good though to have that feedback. And today is Thursday, so get on that app. And I'm assuming you should recommend that people get dating.
Yeah, just be bold. The amount of mobile numbers that sort of, there's no Thursday police to say you can't swap a mobile number and meet them on Friday. This is the amount of mobile numbers that happen. And I've literally just run the numbers for our pitch deck. We are 55% female on this app, 43% male, and the rest non-binary, but whatever it is, 2%. Tinder is 78% male.
Blimey, there you go.
So there we go.
I'm going to pass it over to my business partner immediately with the 55% being the female ratio there. Matt, thank you ever so much for joining me.
No
and I will
that was great.
Speak to you soon, mate.
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks for listening. Coming up next week.
We set ourselves apart because for me personally, I think the word benefits is old hat anyway. And perks makes me just want to vomit. It's just a horrible word. Looking after my mental health is not a perk. Seeing a therapist shouldn't be seen as a perk. This is about genuinely impactful support that an employer can give to employees.
Thank you so much to our headline sponsors for the year, Capsule Cover. Capsule Cover, a specialist insurance partner to growth businesses, supports some of the UK's most innovative and ambitious companies. Sponsoring each and every one of our podcasts, we're on a journey with Capsule, and so should you be. If you're a scale-up or an ambitious, high-growth business, check out how Capsule Cover can help you with bespoke insurance solutions. Inquire via capsulecover.com and quote Success22. See you next week, 8 a.m. on all podcast platforms. Simply subscribe or ask your smart speaker to play Success is in the Mind podcast. This is a Pinpoint Media podcast presented by me, Oliver Bruce, produced by Dan Miller and Fergus Bruce, edited and designed by Harry Fox and Victoria Bramwell, filmed by Madeline Harris, marketed by Ellie Hanwell and Rachel Buchanan Hughes, and managed by Bethan Wyatt and Annabelle Lawton-Smith. Quite a team. Thanks, guys. If you know anyone you think we should interview, if you want to tell your story or have your say, please reach out to me directly via podcast@pinpoint-media.co.uk. Remember, there's never a good time to start a business, but in business, you should always have a good time. Cheers, guys.